Hey guys, it's Christy and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me. Today we're going to be testing out the new Natasha Denona Mini Pastel Palette. So before we get into it, I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel before you leave. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy, and let's get into it. Alright, so this palette was a bit of a sneak release on Christmas Day. She did release this mini palette as well as the Plexi Glow highlighter. I did not pick up the highlighter. It just looked like it had pastel dimensions to it, and I just knew that I would not reach for something like that. So I just picked up the palette, but we're going to test it out today. Opening up the palette, this is what it looks like. It looks very, very pretty, and it does have that same mint green color that the midi pastel has. So this retails for $27 US or $34 Canadian. This has a 24-month shelf life and it is made in Italy. Looking at this palette right now, I think it's going to be more of a companion palette for me. I can't see myself regularly just grabbing for just this. However, we'll do a couple looks, look at some swatches, and then I will show you those comparisons. Okay, so looking at swatches really quickly, we have Aurora, which is like a gold with a mint green shift. And when I heard this described on her Instagram stories initially, I didn't see that, but now that I have it in person, I can absolutely see the shift. Then we have Twiggy, which is like an icy baby pink. Then there is Ontario, which is like a frosty light blue. There is Airy, which is that matte green. And then we have Sea Star, which is her sparkling metallic formula. So this looks really pretty, but right now I am just going to say I don't think this is going to be the most cohesive color story for me personally. Alright, so because we are working with pastels, I wanted a really nice bright base. So I did just use concealer because I find that pastels just really work best with a very bright base. So the first look is going to be one that I saw on Natasha Denona's, I believe, Instagram. So I'm going to try to copy that and then I'll try to create something else. I just want to be able to use all of these shades and show you any versatility, but I also want to show you the struggles if I have any. So I'm just going to start with Airy, and I'm going to work this mostly on the outer corner and then into the crease a little bit, but I do want to try to keep this one to the outside as much as I can. This is quite a pretty matte green, I will say. I really don't know if the green was the best choice for the matte in here. I feel like maybe a matte pink or something may have been a little bit more effective. Okay, so I think I'm going to take a finger into the shade Aurora, and I'm just going to use finger. I just find that is the best way with Natasha shimmers. Okay, that's pretty. That is a really pretty shade. It does work quite well with that green. Okay, I can see that. Okay, I hope you can see that on camera because this shade really is very beautiful. Okay, that's really pretty. I do want to take another brush, and I know I said I like to use her shimmers with a finger, but for this one I need a brush, so I'm going to go into Twiggy. And I'm really just going to use that one for the inner corner. I'm not really getting anything. Okay, I'm going to try a slightly denser brush. Okay, it's still coming off more so just frosty, if anything. Not my favorite. That duochrome though is beautiful. Okay, I'm happy with that. Let me pop on some mascara so I can show you the final look on this side, and then we will move on to the other side. Alright, so here is the finished look on this side, and I quite like it. I think I'm really going to be loving on that Aurora shade especially. I think that's really pretty. I don't like the touch of pink. I probably should have done that. However, I love Aurora. I love the way it played into that mint green, and I think it turned out quite pretty overall. On the other side is where I'm a little nervous because I'm going to try to play with these blues since I haven't done that yet. So I just took a flat brush into the shade Sea Star. I'm really nervous, and I'm going to pack that on to the outer corner. Okay, and then I'm going to take another brush, this is a clean brush, And I just want to blend around the edge. I feel like I'm definitely nervous for this part because I don't do blue eyeshadow, but why not start the year outside the comfort zone? I like that I was able to build a little bit with that, but I think I still need that matte green. So I am going to take just a little bit of that and just see if that helps. But just very, very lightly. I'm not trying to get too much pigment. Okay, and then I'm gonna go into Ontario with a finger. This is a very frosty baby blue. It's quite pretty. Okay, I am gonna try to take a little bit of that matte green just around the edges again. I think I might actually try to put Twiggy in the inner corner. This might be a huge mistake, but I'm gonna try it anyway. Okay, I feel like Ontario is just not coming off as shimmery as it kind of looks in the pan. It's definitely a very light frosty shade, but I kind of expected a little bit more. Let me pop off camera, put on some mascara, and then I'll come back with my final thoughts and comparisons. All right, guys, so these are the final two looks. And surprisingly, I don't hate the blue side as much as I thought I would. I do prefer this side because I love that Aurora shade. However, this works too. I don't hate it. Much as I suspected initially, this color story really isn't the most cohesive for me personally. I just don't feel like it works for me as a standalone palette. So if you compare to the midi palette, I do think this is a great companion. I think the greens can play really well off each other in particular, and because Aurora has that mint shift, it's going to play so well off those greens as well. I think it's going to look stunning. I think the pink in here, well, the pink in here could play well with the pinks in the midi, but we don't really need the pink, honestly, because in here we have Duet and we have Dainty, and they work really well. I do think that pairing the two palettes gives us a lot more to work with when it comes to the blues in here, because you do get a matte baby blue and you get a cream to powder deeper blue. So I think had I just reached into this palette, I would like this look so much more, if that makes sense. So I will say that I do think that if you have the midi palette, I do think that this is a great companion. If you don't have the midi, then I'm not really sure how much use you're going to get out of this. Unless you have another palette that has a lot of matte pastels, I just don't know how much use you would get out of this as a standalone palette. However, I did want to mention as well the Retro Glam. I don't believe these are as good a fit as this one and the Pastel, but this is definitely more of a spring color story, but it does have that slight frostiness to it that I think could maybe pair well with this. I think the pink in here would work well with some of these shades, as well as the Aurora duochrome shade. I think it might work well with these. Even maybe the matte green, these might pair well together as well. This may bring a brightness to this. Of course, it's going to be a much, much better companion to the midi pastel. So let's talk about quality. I think the quality is fine. I love the shift in this one. I think it's very pretty. I feel like the pink just ends up looking a little bit more frosty than anything, and this blue really wasn't as sparkly as I expected. The matte green in here actually is very high quality. It blended out really well. It was very buildable, very easy to work with. I enjoyed that. And this blue it's fine. I like how it allowed me to pack it on the outer corner and blend at the edges. I got a tiny bit of fallout, but really not much. So I liked that. I think the quality is here. This is her usual excellent quality. I do think that. I just don't think the color story itself is very cohesive to work together. Maybe for somebody more creative than me, but overall, I don't think this is a cohesive enough color story to stand alone. So I think if you have the midi pastel already, you don't need this, but it is a great companion if you're attracted to this. I do think this duochrome is beautiful. If you don't own the midi pastel, then I really don't know if it would be worth picking this up. I think this is pretty. It's just not the most cohesive, and I don't know if it is the most well thought out color story, in my opinion. So I like it, but I don't think this one is a need. I like it. It's pretty. I don't think it's a need, and it's definitely not going to be my favorite mini palette from Natasha. However, I am very, very excited to try to create some looks using the two of these together, and I think that might bump this one up a little bit in my mind, but just by itself, not a favorite. Pretty, quality is good, just not a favorite for me personally, just because I don't feel like I have enough to create with. So that is it for me today. Let me know down below if you picked this one up. I love hearing from you guys. Thank you so very much for watching. If you're new here, I hope you'll consider subscribing before you go. I do upload at least 3 new videos every single week. Thank you again so very much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!